I have some questions I would like to ask. I want to understand why Israel is the only nation in the entire world that has these problems. One, she's the only UN member whose right to exist is under constant challenge when no other nation in the United Nations' right to live is questioned. Number two, I want to understand why Israel is the only UN member state that is publicly targeted for annihilation by another UN member state, Iran. I then want to understand why Israel is the only nation whose capital city, Jerusalem, is not recognized by the nations of the world, including America. Diplomats do their business in Jerusalem and stay in Tel Aviv. I further want to understand why Israel is the only country that has won all its wars, yet it is confronted by defeated adversaries who are trying to dictate terms of peace to them. I further want to understand why Israel is the only country censured by name 9 times since the UN Rights Council was established in 2006. I further want to understand why Israel is the only nation who, in violation of the spirit of the UN Charter, isn't a full member of 5 regional blocs: Africa, Asia, Western Europe, Latin America, Eastern Europe. I further want to understand how in the world could a nation of 5.8 million people withstand the attack of 220 million people on a daily basis. I then want to understand how one nation that is surrounded by 22 nations that want to kill her every day could live and survive. I further want to understand how a nation 60 years old could have had 7 wars: 48, 56, 67, 73, 82, 2000, 2004, and the recent war with Hezbollah, and that same nation win every war. I further want to understand why this one nation and this one people that has no gold, no silver, no brass, no oil, the River Jordan is like a canal compared to the Tigris or the Euphrates. She's not on a major trade route or a major sea route. I want to understand why every nation in the world wants that piece of territory. I further want to understand why it is on a mount called Mount Moriah, where Abraham offered Isaac, a 38-acre plot of land has become the most intractable piece of real estate in the entire world. And when a rabbi spits, CNN stops. I further want to understand why it is that single nation has had every superpower since the beginning of time: Assyria, Egypt, Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, the Grecians, the Romans, every major empire to come against it and say, you have no right to exist. I further want to understand what force has kept these people as a nation. What force has kept their belief? They have been swallowed and assimilated into 104 countries. They were drowned, they were killed, they were blamed, their bodies were fried in ovens, they were killed in Bergen-Belsen, Auschwitz, Buchenwald, they were killed all over Europe. I want to understand what has kept the belief of these people that no matter where they would turn to Jerusalem every day, Jerusalem, and they would say, next year. I want to know what has kept the Jews through destruction, pogroms, crusades, holocausts, intifadas, and terrorism. When the Romans expelled them, they lived. When the Spanish and the French had inquisitions, they lived. When the Muslims built mosques over their Jewish holy sites, they lived. when their trees were cut down, their husbands were killed, their wives were raped, their children were enslaved, they lived when their temple was ripped and raped and ravaged and ruined and burnt to the ground twice by Titus of Rome and Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. They still rose up with the Abrahamic covenant in their heart, know that God had given them a land. I want to know today, where is Babylon? Their splendor splashed on the earth. They oppressed Israel, and years after, they became the dim puff of history. Where's the might and the lust of the Medo-Persian Empire? They came, they touched Israel, and they receded into the waters of a murky ocean of history. Where are the Romans? Where's the mighty Roman Empire that came and hung them and took the trees and burnt them and took the wood and made crosses from the wood? Where are they? They have disappeared into the recesses of a deep destruction. Where are the Ottoman Turks that came? They're gone forever. Where's Hitler that killed 6 million? Gone. Where's Barbarossa? Gone. Where are the Jews? In their land. That's right. Possessing Jerusalem. Amen. Standing up. I want to know who has that kind of power. Who has the power that is mightier than the armies of the world put together? Who has the power to silence the nuclear arsenals of the world? Who has the power to stop terrorism from taking over the Middle East? Who has the power to take a fledgling group of rejected people that have been strewn over the sand heaps of time and raise them up and say, they are my people? Who has that kind of power? I am so happy to announce to you, he happens to be my God.